Wall Street not only did not create jobs, they are directly responsible for the unemployment crisis in America. I like to say that Wall Street bankers are like the kid, the child, who kills his parents and then pleads for mercy from the judge because he's an orphan. The Wall Street bankers actively pushed corporations to outsource jobs and move production from America to third world countries and to China. They counseled corporations, they told corporations, cut costs by cutting your U.S. payroll and then move those jobs to China, to Vietnam, to Indonesia, to all of these countries where they can pay pennies on the dollar. This will look like you're a cost cutter. It'll boost the stock price, and it'll make your quarterly earnings report look good. Now, the CEOs were being paid in company stock, so they were eager to boost the share price by any means necessary. What they did is they destroyed the American economy, they destroyed the dreams of American workers by taking their jobs away, but at the same time, they were destroying the customers who bought from companies, the taxpayers who pay taxes into the U.S. Treasury, and they were destroying the incomes of homeowners who could no longer pay their mortgages, and hence we got a mortgage crisis. So the Wall Street companies are directly responsible for this unemployment crisis. They've not only not created jobs, they're responsible for destroying jobs in the United States, and that's what the protesters are really protesting about. They have no jobs. If they had jobs, there would be no financial crisis and there would be no protesters.
Okay, well, Mr. Ellis, we've seen this movement go from a few people in New York City to becoming a worldwide protest against the so-called 1% of the world's richest. Now, do you think the movement is on its way to becoming something even bigger? I mean, how much bigger can this get?
Well, we see in Greece today that it's quite big. That's not going away. And as these policies, these basically neoliberal policies in line with what the IMF has imposed on other countries, try to get instituted in the developed world, we will see this get larger. It's an open question now. Will the Occupy Wall Street protesters take this movement back to their hometowns so this spreads even further into the grassroots level?
Okay, well, thank you very much for your thoughts there. Curtis Ellis, Executive Director of the American Jobs Alliance. Thanks again.
No more Gadhaffi.
Wow. Well, that was great information. I mean, was that not amplifying exactly what I was just saying? That's exactly what's happened here. We have a takeover of our country by these collectivists who exactly did that. But you make it like, well, this is just all for cutting and spending and earnings. It's not. Yes, I mean, it's true. But no, that's the agenda. The Rockefeller Agenda, 1973, went to China, called Mao Zedong, one of the greatest leaders in history. A man who slaughtered 80 million people. Greatest leaders in history. That same year, of course, Nixon went to China and opened the door to China. And hence, we've been slowly moving our all of the wealth of the country to China as far as the manufacturing capacities, and the corporation owners moving all these are offshore banks. Through, of course, Rockefeller interests and others, Rothschilds. And it just was a slow erosion, and now it's like coming to the point of implosion. And this is no mistake. They knew what they were doing. So from 1973 on, this started really churning down, pulling, moving down the pike. And now, unlike when Russia fell, when the Soviet Union fell, the communism, excuse me, in 1989, again there was this tremendous poverty. And then, of course, the bankers always come in as the saviors and further enslave the people. So right now we're at a precarious spot because things are in such a way that with manufacturing continuing its decline, and jobs. Just, you know, this is not going away. They're not going to change this. We have to change this. They're intent on turning us into a third world country, and it's very hard for your belief system to accept that. Now I know, but if we do nothing, I guarantee you, by 2025, this country will be a third world nation. And if you think I'm kidding, it's not my opinion. Great many men with great knowledge, such as Gerald Celente, trends forecaster who's been accurate on the trends since the 1980s, has the Trends Research Institute in Kingston, New York. Yep. We're talking about, if people don't change and we don't wake up and come to this, we will be serfs. We will just give everything up to be fed by the state. And that's exactly what they want. Because once the state has control, you're at their mercy. So I don't want the government in my house. I don't want the government in my car. I don't want the government on my phone. I don't want the government at my job. I don't want the government in the street with me. I don't want them anywhere around me. I just want them there when we need them. It's the other way around. That's what it was meant to be. You think I'm crazy because that's not what you're used to. But it is exactly the opposite. So what it's supposed to be is exactly the opposite. They're supposed to be there for you, not over you. But the criminals have infiltrated the government, creating the legislation to enslave the people and put in these powers for taxation and fines and other things. And that's why we're here where we are. Now, Mr. George Soros. Haven't spoken about him. Talk a lot about the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. Now, the Wall Street Journal, I was mentioning the thing about Rockefeller going to China in 1973, and in the Times he wrote in the China Traveler again about how that is the model. And now the United Nations model is actually of China. They are using that model for the world, their economic and societal model. And again, if you think I'm, not being truthful, why don't you look it up? Check out the United Nations and say United Nations, embraces China, social policy, and you're right there. Now, George Soros, of course, is like fully behind the control of this opposition to the Wall Street movement that we were just discussing. But interestingly enough, I want to make a comparison to Nixon in 1973 with China. Now, what was happening in 1973 with Nixon in China, opening up the trade barriers, I should say trade balance, which of course we know is really not free trade, it's collectivism. And Rockefeller's trip there, setting up all the banking, with his trip to China for Chase at the time, Chase Manhattan Bank. In 1972, the year before, W. Clement Stone, who is the founder and owner of Combined Insurance, gave $2 million to Nixon's re-election campaign. Now, Stone was a Mason and created this very much of a cult-like insurance company. I mean, I personally know because it freaked me out. I went to work for Combined Insurance and for a short time, and I realized what it was all about. And yeah, it's very, it's Masonic, and just not something for me, that's for sure. So I didn't last very long. But he was a big New World Order supporter, In fact, his quote unquote his life work was to, of course, have a goal. He wrote Positive Mental Attitude, books like Believe and Achieve, and he was the co-founder of him and Napoleon Hill. Actually, they were also the original motivational type people. Positive thinkers. New Age thinking philosophy. What the Anthony Robbins and all these other people embrace, and you think that they came, well, they all got it from Mr. Stone and Mr. Hill there. Now Stone was also interested in psychic ability and the occult. Literally, he co-founded and funded the occult. I forget the name of the exact organization, but it's for occult research. You can Google it. W. Clement Stone occult. It'll come up. And interestingly enough, so it's not too hard. Now, I didn't realize that it's this reverse thing. God is Lucifer, the light bearer. To what Mr. Stone was talking about, and was getting into this whole thing that they try to really infiltrate it in the work of combined insurance. So I was just very freaked out. Started my awakening, actually. Was, I must say, a big part of my awakening was realizing what that was all about. But anyway, so when Stone had given this money, it was all, again, for this collectivism. Combined Insurance is in 50 countries. They are the leading unknown company you've never heard of in the insurance industry, and I kid you not. You probably never heard of Combined Insurance, but check them out. They used to be, they merged with Aon Corporation, but now they were purchased by Ace Limited, and big company, ridiculous, absolute high level control of the insurance industry. And Art Ryan, who had been with Aon, created the concept of the extended warranty on the car. He owns the patent to that. So every time somebody buys a extended warranty, he has a little piece of that. He's the one that created that. Can you imagine that? Anyway, that's collectivism. There you go. So, in essence, Soros, as Mr. Stone, is contributing even more money. He'd give every penny if it would guarantee the president's defeat. That's interesting. It's amazing. Soros is distressed by the president's war on terrorism, he says. He feels in general the U.S. should deal with terrorist threat by giving out more foreign aid, enacting more equitable trade laws, and being more constructive, cooperative of the world community. Mr. Soros argues that the U.S. should have treated the September 11th attacks as a criminal matter, not an act of war. That I agree with. Crime requires police work, not military action. Yeah, but when you're a criminal, you can't be doing that, George, and you should know that. Anyhow, interestingly enough, Soros has given $15 million to America Coming Together and MoveOn.org to control the opposition at the Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street movement. So they're all there. MoveOn.org, and the Media Matters. Listen to them. Go listen to Media Matters. Go check out anything they do, or read any of their writings, I should say. Unbelievable. So, moving along, you have a little bit more going on with Gadhaffi here. Because if Gadhaffi was killed, a lot of good things happen. It takes a little bit of understanding, but even the London people, the people in London, Blair had some problems here. Because Blair's close relationship with Gadhaffi was once again thrust into the spotlight with the revelation that he privately met the dictator for a total of 6 times.